Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this DSM Forward event. The event is sponsored by the Greater Des Moines Partnership and is part of our DSM Forward series. With this series, our goal is to help business community and community members connect, share, and exchange information and resources related to moving forward in the next phase of reopening. We have a series of resources we've created at dsmpartnership.com/dsmforward. There are playbooks, and other information available to you. Please take a look at that, and hopefully that will be of help to you. I am joined today, I've been looking forward to this, with Kelly Norris, Director of Horticulture and Education at the Greater Des Moines Botanical Gardens, and I'm a big fan of the garden, so I'm looking forward to this discussion. Thank you, all of our guests, for joining us. We appreciate it. If you haven't already, mute your microphones, and you can turn off the video if you want. We would open the chat box. We would love to have your questions. So please enter them as you see fit, and know that we will record this and make a recording available to everyone right after the podcast. So with that, Kelly, welcome, and thanks for joining us. You have a big day planned for tomorrow. What's going on tomorrow?
Well, thanks for having me, Mike. It's great to be able to jump on here today and talk a little bit about the Botanical Garden. And yes, tomorrow we've got some news. You know, we're reopening the building, the conservatory, which I'm sitting in here today. I'm doing this from the balcony of our historic conservatory, as well as the Gardener's Show House open to the public tomorrow, which is the first time that the indoor spaces have been open since March. So we're really excited to welcome people back tomorrow.
Well, congratulations. That's a long haul to have to go virtual with something as in-person as a garden, to not be able to have people in that garden.
Right. Well, you know, we've obviously had the outdoor gardens open since July 6th. So tomorrow we just add to that. And we've certainly enjoyed seeing people through the end of the summer and into the autumn in the outdoor gardens. We're getting beautiful fall color, some of which is maybe due to the drought we had this summer. So we're getting extra vibrant colors in the trees, so that's been really nice. The weather starts to go on a little bit, get people back inside to the conservatory. You know, plants haven't stopped growing through all of this, and so the lushness of the conservatory is verdant and teeming, and we're grateful to be able to have the chance to safely welcome people back to the building.
Well, and I live just 2 blocks up the street from the Botanical Gardens, and I can attest to how beautiful the trees and colors are in downtown. So, and by the way, I have to say, I don't know if you did this professionally, but the colors in the background there, this looks like a professional photo shoot, and I am by no means a professional with Zoom, so well done you. Tell us a little bit about...
We've gotten some practice doing this.
We all have. Tell us a little bit about how COVID-19 affected the gardens, especially right at the very beginning. Take us back to that.
Yeah, gosh, you know, it's been kind of a time warp year. Some days it feels like it'll never end, and some days it's hard to believe it's the middle of October already, and we're well into our 8th month of living in these strange and uncertain times. And like practically all cultural organizations, this pandemic and the economic downturn and all of the associated events with that have added new stresses to our organization. Des Moines is a rich, culturally vibrant city that we're just thrilled to be a part of, and we're thrilled with the basis of support that we have here in the community. But it's been hard, and we've had to figure out ways, and we're still figuring out ways, I think, about how we pivot and sort of take advantage of the new normal. I think you highlighted, Mike, just what makes this so difficult is a garden is a place to come. It's a place to be in person and to see yourself immersed in, and to touch plants and smell flowers and to read signage and to ask questions like, what is that plant and why is it here and what is it doing? And so, you know, it has obviously presented some challenges for how we deliver the mission digitally, how we get out in the world through mechanisms and platforms like Zoom with events like this to really share the message about plants and landscapes, and why in so many ways this crisis is highlighting why landscapes in the public context are more critical and essential as infrastructure than ever.
Well, unfortunately you're breaking up just a little bit, but we'll keep going with this. You were talking about how important landscapes are, and I think it is with all the people looking to get outside and just get outdoors while we can. We were talking earlier about the reality that, you know, it's going to get cold out soon and we'll have to go back inside. Before we do, though, you have a new feature down there I'd like you to maybe talk a little bit about, and that is the new OnSite Gardens that recently opened. I've seen some pictures of that. I haven't gotten down to see them yet, hopefully this weekend. Can you tell us a little bit about the new OnSite Gardens?
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. You know, we were fortunate this year to have been under construction with a new garden called the Ruan Reflection Garden, funded by Janice and John Ruan and their family. It is an extension of the areas of the garden that they have already funded, including the Ruan Alley, which serves as that kind of signature architectural backbone to the landscape master plan. So the Ruan Reflection Garden was designed by Doug Hare of Hare Shout Landscape Architects in Chicago, who did really conceived our initial master plan. And then in some ways, this was, you know, kind of Doug's last overture in the scope of his design work to really complete that experience at the end of the alley. And so it's been a project that's been underway for the last 3 years. And we actually broke ground on construction for this project just before lockdown began and just before we shut down for COVID. And so it was sort of an unusual time to be developing and constructing a new garden, but that's what we were up to this summer. A lot of things we've been up to this summer, it seems like, have really been focused on the long tail. I mean, how do we continue to develop the remaining 7 acres of our property? How do we continue to invest in future experiences and continue to expand our offerings for folks? So we've tried to sort of, you know, tide ourselves over in this time period with a forward look and looking towards how we can continue to serve as a model for the rest of the region and the city for what landscapes can be. Obviously, they're beautiful, but we want to also talk about how landscapes can be functional and how they can be ecologically essential to the fabric of the landscape of our urban areas and our cities. And we think Des Moines is an interesting place to model that. And so for each garden that we do, and we're certainly continuing to invest in design time and effort to plan for what's ahead, we continue to look forward with that mindset. So if you haven't had a chance to circle back to the Ruan Reflection Garden, to come down and see it, it is open. Obviously, some of those trees have already lost their leaves for the year, and kind of a stressful year with the fall and things. So, but we're getting great color throughout the garden, and it's a great place to come and sit on one of those cafe tables and look at the new water feature and sort of imagine what that space is going to be like in another growing season, which we're certainly already looking forward to in 2021.
So speaking of that, for those of us who are planning on coming down, real briefly, what are your protocols for protection around COVID, and what are the hours?
Absolutely. So we are open 10 to 5. And in fact, one of the things that's new in this next week, we mentioned at the top of the hour here as we got started, that we are reopening the Conservatory and Gardener's Show House starting tomorrow. That's Wednesday, October 14th. But starting next week, we'll actually be closed on Mondays. So we'll be open Tuesday through Sundays, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. And we ask that you go online and reserve your tickets and pick a time slot to come visit. That's one of the ways in which we're just controlling the number of people or attempting to control the flow of those people through the site. So we ask that you do that. It's been working really well for us. And if you have any challenges, of course, you can just call us and check in that way too. But that time ticketing setup has worked really well for us since all the way back to July when we opened the outdoor gardens. So again, we'll be open Tuesday through Sunday from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m.
You know, we were talking a little bit about outdoor environments, and I know a lot of my friends are doing more gardening this year at their own homes than ever before. Sure. How's that affected the botanical garden? I know you sell plants, you sell bulbs. Has there been an impact for the botanical garden, and have you been talking to people about this?
Absolutely. It's been one of the positive impacts, if we can say it that way, of the last so many months. People have started gardening with a passion and a fervor, maybe more than we've seen in recent years. And then there's been a lot of, I think, uptick in interest in gardening, particularly with house plants and indoor plants in the last so many years. And it seems like the market was primed for this moment in so many ways. I think people have explored growing food for the first time, or maybe getting deeper into that practice and that hobby of growing their own food. And so certainly there's been that aspect of it. Our plant sales have actually grown beyond anything that we've ever known them to be before. We have an online shop that you can check out at dmbotanicalgarden.com, and You can check the shop link. We are still selling bulbs. It's a great time to be planting spring flowering bulbs, tulips, daffodils, crocuses, and all sorts of other things. We still have that bulb sale going on, and those have just been critical lifelines for us, not only for revenue. I mean, obviously that part's great too. I mean, we have to continue inventing ways in which we generate revenue, knowing that we've not had as many people traditionally coming through the doors in these last few months as we normally would have. But it's also a critical way, Mike, for us to get the mission out there. I mean, one of the things that we do here is we curate plants, we advocate for plants that we think people should be planting more of. That's part of how we really sort of walk the walk about resilient landscapes, is that as curators of those landscapes, we see that curation as an active activity, as a sort of an advocacy in a way that really helps to underscore the kinds of smarter, climate sensitive planting choices that we hope you all are making out there. And so the plant sales allow for us, to really make that happen. We can really show you what to do with those plants. We can teach you about those plants, and we can bring those to you, through the medium of retail. And so that has been a new opportunity, and I think an opportunity that is going to continue to grow for us in 2021 and beyond.
So speaking of online sales, was the garden well positioned to do e-commerce? Was everything up and running and ready to go, or did you have to dive in?
We dove head first. We created all of this in March and April. Our director of marketing, Kelly Riley, who's back there on the screen today here, and I kind of spearheaded this effort. I have an e-commerce background. She has obviously great marketing talents, and we said, look, we're just got to harness the team. This is what we got to do. This is the moment that this calls for. And luckily, our web developers were able to help us kind of do all the tech stuff and get everything plugged in. And most importantly, our membership in the community responded. And that was really gratifying in the spring, when it just seems kind of bleak, honestly, in so many ways. And it really seemed in a way that people's optimism and enthusiasm for spending time at home in their gardens was really what was motivating them to be engaged. And so we've taken some happiness and some a silver lining of sorts in those activities this year.
So you talked a little bit about financial impact, and all of the nonprofits I know have had impact. How is the garden doing financially? I mean, not a detail of, but in general, how are things going for the gardens?
We feel like we're in a lucky place relative to some of our peers. We've always prided ourselves on having a diversified business model, both from earned revenue as well as from philanthropy. And, we've kind of got a diversified pie. And so our eggs are not really in one basket. And so while it certainly is a somewhat dire time relative to the successes we have only recently known in the last even 12 months, we feel well positioned for the future. We're having some heart-to-heart, honest, hard conversations about how we can shore up a little bit and how we can kind of pivot and refocus. We see a future, an optimistic, greener, verdant, brighter future ahead of us, and know that the organization, for what it does on its own campus, as well as the ways in which it can advocate for flourishing landscapes beyond it, has nothing but potential. We just have to manage through the next 6 to 12 to 18 months to sort of weather out some of the challenges that have been imposed by COVID-19 and the pandemic and the economic downturn on principally our earned revenue. And know that we have a future ahead of us. We have a strong team. We have strong supporters. We have 7 acres of land yet to develop. We feel like we've got a lot of positive things in motion, but we're certainly having difficult conversations like any other cultural institution.
So in preparing for our discussion today, I spent some time on the website over there, and I noticed you have a tremendous number of activities available in the education and resources section.
Yeah.
I'm curious, and especially for families and children, which anybody with children at home, it's been a challenging time. Right. So what's been the most popular?
Well, I think, we've got a number of really popular activities up there. The terrarium kits are always popular. They were popular before COVID. They're popular even now. So people like to be able to do those activities with kids at home. There's really quite a battery of resources that our education team and our horticulture team have collaborated on to really put together over the course of the summer. Our education team does a great Plant Fun Fact Friday that has been well received by members especially. So we've really tried to do more on our YouTube channel. We've done Facebook Live events in the garden, just showing people the actual spaces. For all the time that we were closed in the spring and the summer, we were trying to just take the garden to people wherever they were at as much as we possibly could. And so we continue to add to those resources. Right now, our focus is just getting the mission out there for people who maybe can't come to the site, even or for people who can come to the site, and to leave them with a souvenir, a memento, an activity that they can do with kids, and to really sort of celebrate that experience that they had while they were here.
Well, and that and a little room for education while we're at it. You have a program on Saturdays, or you did so Learn on Saturday, I think it is, and is that
That's
still
right.
going on?
Yeah, so Learn on Saturdays is one of our keystone winter adult education programs, and that's always been on Saturdays in January, February, and March. And that program will continue in a virtual capacity this year. We will be doing one speaker every week, every Saturday, that is January, February, and March. The great thing about Learn on Saturdays, it's one of my favorite educational traditions around here. And I mean, I'm biased, right? Because I've been in the organization a long time, and I get to oversee the ways and the mission, products, and experiences we cultivate and deliver. But of all the things that we do educationally, there is such a following and a passion for local gardeners for Learn on Saturdays. We always have prided ourselves on trying to feature local flavors and personalities. We really lean on the horticultural and natural sciences community in central and greater Iowa to be able to supply talent for that program. And our education team is cultivating a great roster of folks to join us. We always also try and showcase our staff talent as much as possible too. So it is a local flavors. It's a great opportunity for people in the middle of the winter when we don't want to think about what's coming. We don't want to talk about winter, right? But we know it'll come, and we know in the middle of the winter we're going to be desperate for that craving for spring. It's a great way to charge your batteries as a gardener, or even just somebody who appreciates gardens. And that'll be every Saturday, January, February, and March, and there'll be more information forthcoming about that lineup here pretty soon.
Are there other online education available this fall and winter? You've had a lot of programs in the past, everything from yoga out on the lawn to,
yeah.
I took a terrarium class in person there. What other kinds of programs are going to be going on this winter?
Well, we've got a great wellness series that we've been delivering on Facebook with meditation and mindfulness classes too. I think all of us have maybe tapped into that side of our brain a little more in the last few months as we manage stress and try and, just deal with all the things going on in the world. What a great place to be doing that, maybe at home in your own garden, but joining us remotely with the folks that we facilitate and recruit to give those programs for us. So we deliver a lot of those programs through social media platforms. We continue to invest in different forms of digital delivery for e-commerce, or excuse me, digital education classes. We have got some e-courses that we're working on, some longer form courses that you'll be able to kind of immerse yourselves in, whether you're a home gardener or whether you're maybe even a horticultural or landscape professional looking for some additional CEU credits. We're trying to sort of deliver a variety of different mission products for people where they're at, because we know people are spending more time at home. Conferences are canceled, or activities and things are canceled that people would normally be able to get out and really, experience those kinds of things, those learning environments in different mediums. And so we're working as hard as we can to try and, push those out in a timely fashion and meet people where they're at in this moment.
So we talked a little bit about the new Ruan Garden, and you mentioned that there's another 7 acres to go. You have quite a bit of land. That's a lot of land in the city. Can you give us any clue about timelines, thoughts?
Sure.
What's in the back of your mind for that space?
Well, it is a 14-acre property, and most people probably don't realize that our lease definition with the city includes that in that kind of acreage. And you're right, especially in downtown. I mean, that is a significant chunk of land. So the Greater Des Moines Botanical Garden is a nonprofit independently governed nonprofit that leases this land from the city of Des Moines. We have city representation on our board. Ben Page, Director of Parks and Recs, and Linda Westergaard, our Ward 3 City Councilwoman, sit on our board. And that relationship that we have to really activate this site for the purposes of exploring, explaining, and celebrating the world of plants is the mission we've been operating under since 2012, when the nonprofit January 1st of 2013, when the nonprofit assumed full-time operatorship of this site. So we had a master plan in those early days that led us through really the first half of the site's development. And those gardens, of course, as many folks know, have been open now since 2015 as the result of a nearly $19 million capital campaign and investment effort. We have 7 acres to go, though, and we, in the course of the last 18 months, have invested in a new strategic plan, a new master plan, a revision of that previous master plan that we hope will clarify some of the things we hear from people, a desire to, for example, to come to the site and experience more performances. You were asking me, Mike, at the top of the call here about our music series, which we have historically done Botanical Blues in the winter, music in the garden in the summer. People tell us they love to come to the Botanical Garden for concerts and for performing arts experiences. And we've done a number of those kinds of things over the years. And we want to try and address that and create that lifestyle experience in the garden by building features that accommodate that. A lot of the spaces that we have today maybe weren't designed for the capacity that we're now pushing them towards, because people are saying, hey, we love the garden, we want to come for a concert or a performing arts experience, an opera, a symphony, a chamber ensemble, whatever. We've done all of those things, and we will do more of those as we continue to expand the site. Of course, we are a living museum in so many respects. We have a collection. We curate these landscapes for a particular Midwestern resilience. Those kind of dynamic models help create living case studies for how we can activate more green space throughout the city infrastructure and really lead in many ways in tying together those little parks and green spaces and your backyards and your gardens together into one living, breathing, living landscape throughout the course of the cities. So in the next 7 acres, we have many, many more gardens to come, many, many more places that we will be able to create those kinds of experiences, from eating and dining and performing arts. There's a lot of opportunities to come and a lot of things to get excited about, really, as we look towards the river and to maximize the full 14-acre footprint that we have in our stead here in downtown Des Moines.
Yeah, and I think about you talk about being downtown, not only that, but you're right on the trail. And that trail gets a tremendous amount of traffic. I've got to believe
Yes.
that the local bike riders and walkers would love to have more access as well. Hey, I had a question, Kelly, come in that we have to ask. I was thinking about this too. I wasn't going to ask it, but somebody else asked, when's the corpse flower going to bloom again?
the most famous plant in our collection, one of 3,000, but the most famous plant in our collection. Carrie, as we call her, the corpse flower, as many folks know, bloomed in 2017 in a spectacle event in July of that year. We don't know exactly when it's going to bloom again. That's one of the great mysteries of the botanical world. Gosh, if we could predict that, we'd really have it made. But it's an event that takes place every 6 to 7, 8, 10 years. It depends on the nature of the plant. I can, from where I'm sitting up on the balcony, I can just nearly see where that plant is at. Has had a great growing cycle in this last year, and we look forward to continuing to coax it along towards its next spectacle. Now, one of the things folks may remember about that whole event was we pollinated Carrie, and we actually have grown out, Carrie's 50 kids out of that whole batch of things, and so actually a lot more than that. In fact, we've granted or sent off those plants to other botanical institutions and museums. And so the nature of plants is that they keep making more of themselves so often. And so we've been able to share a little horticultural diplomacy with other institutions. So whether it's Carrie or one of the others that we have in the back, we have plenty of the corpse flowers. That's botanically as Amorphophallus titanum. Here in the house, and we know at some point in the future we'll be able to do all of that again and welcome people back for that kind of fun.
Oh, that is great. Hey, I wanted to ask you, there was an article recently or mentioned recently that the Asian Gardens, which sits just across the path from you, that's been around for quite some time, was built in honor of the people that came over under Robert E. Ray's administration that joined us here in Des Moines. I understand that's coming under the purview of the gardens. Can you tell us more about that?
I would love to tell you more about that. That has been another exciting project, another 3-year project. Folks may pick up, there's a lot of 3- and 4-year references around here because, big public projects like this that have a lot of contingencies and a lot of stakeholders and a lot of layers don't happen overnight. I wish they happened faster sometimes, but you know what? It's with due diligence that we are partners in a project like the revitalization and enhancement of the Robert D. Ray Asian Garden, which, as you know, is just practically across the street from where you're at right now, and just down the street from where I'm at. It's a nearly acre site, if you include the green space around it, that we are looking forward to adding to our operational scope. Likely in 2021. This project has been underway, as I mentioned, for about 3 years, working with a dedicated group of civic volunteers and philanthropists to put a new shine on that living tribute to our late Governor Bob Ray, and really serve as a monument and a testament to the incredible Asian community that we have here in central Iowa, the rich cultures that came to be part of our city due to his humanitarian leadership in the 1970s. And so we are excited about reinventing that experience a little bit. It's certainly a beautiful piece of architecture, but we always feel like the landscape has sort of been missing a certain element to help translate and really convey that beautiful story of Bob Ray's legacy as a leader, as a humanitarian, and really display and shine a light on the richness of Asian peoples in our community, especially the individuals descended from the 5 communities of Southeast Asian minorities that sought refuge in Iowa. So what we're going to get to do is be able to bring all of that together in one interpretive kind of milestone there at the garden, but also create a garden that is rich with the elements horticulturally of those Asian cultures. Now, you may think, gosh, how do we translate a Southeast Asian culture into Des Moines, Iowa? So we're certainly taking a pan-Asian, a liberal definition of what that certainly means to create an authentic garden experience that fuses together the reality of our central Iowa place with the richness of these cultures and these people's stories. And so it's been a fun project to work on. It's a project we cannot wait to share with the public. We really hope people will find new meaning and new purpose in that experience. And we're looking forward to that in 2021.
Well, I can't wait. And by the way, you're right. I can see it out my window just by turning that way. So it's very, very close to me. Well, in wrapping up here, I guess I just want to ask, are there other things that are going on at the garden or things that we missed today that you'd like to talk about before we wrap it up?
Well, you know, we are just, I just want to take it back to where we started. We're just really excited tomorrow, October 14th, to welcome people back to the building. We're excited to, you know, just see people back in the space. I just want to tell people again how that's going to kind of work. We encourage people to go online to dmbotanicalgarden.com, sign up for your time tickets, and get your place in line, so to speak. We have done a pretty thorough study of the building, our air supply systems. Of course, this is a unique building. This isn't just like an office building that you maybe not working in right now. You know, there's a lot of air movement through this building, and so we've really studied that and feel very confident that we've got a safe environment, obviously requiring masks and social distancing. And that's been somewhat kind of complicated thread to untie a little bit, is how do we just space people out in the conservatory where it can be a little intimate, frankly, because you're getting close to the plants. And so we've got all that worked out. We're excited to bring people back into the space and really just, you know, give people a chance to soak up a little tropical atmosphere as the weather starts to get a little cooler outside. But of course, it seems like we might be still a couple weeks out from a good hard frost, so the gardens are still going to be in fine form surely through the end of the month. So a lot to come see. Autumn has always been a special time of year here in the garden for us. September and October are kind of secretly always are 2 of our favorite months of the year, horticulturally speaking. So we hope you'll come out and check all that out.
Well, we definitely will come out and check it out. I know I will. And I'm guessing that the tickets for those time slots in the dead of winter are going to be very, very hard to come by, because I can't imagine how nice it's going to be to come into that warm, humid dome when it's about 5 degrees outside. So
it's a cost-effective treatment for, I was going to say, it's a cost-effective treatment for seasonal affective disorder in the middle of the winter.
Absolutely. Kelly, thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks again for participating in the event, to all the attendees. I appreciate that. And if again, just as a reminder, dsmpartnership.com/dsm-forward for resources and other information available. And with that, Kelly, thank you, and we'll wrap up the call.
All right. Well, we'll hope to see you all here soon. Thanks so much.